My name is Susan Caldwell, and I'm 75 years old, 3 weeks ago. I was sitting in my own living room, the same room where I'd rocked my daughter Rebecca to sleep 43 years ago when he looked me dead in the eye and said, "Mom, you need to sleep on the couch tonight. Marcus needs the master bedroom for his back problems." Marcus, her boyfriend of 6 months, who'd been living in my house, eating my food, and treating me like hired help. The same man who'd convinced my daughter that I was too old to manage my own affairs and needed supervision. What Rebecca didn't know was that earlier that morning, I'd made a phone call that would change everything, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a grieving widow learned to fight back against her own family. Before I continue, if you enjoy stories about family betrayal and justice, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. And if you've ever faced something like this, share in the comments. We'll feature your story too. 6 months ago, I was living what most people would call a perfect retirement. My husband Thomas had passed away 2 years earlier, leaving me our beautiful 4-bedroom home in Charlotte, North Carolina, along with a comfortable pension and savings. Rebecca, my only child, lived across town with her teenage son, Jake, my beloved grandson. I thought I was handling widowhood well. I joined a book club, volunteered at the local animal shelter, and maintained my independence. Sure, I got lonely sometimes, but I had friends, hobbies, and the satisfaction of managing my own life at 75. Then Rebecca met Marcus Whitfield at some singles event, 48 years old, recently divorced, and according to Rebecca, finally ready for a real relationship. Within 2 weeks, she was bringing him to Sunday dinners. Within a month, he was staying overnight at her apartment, and within 3 months, he'd moved in completely. That's when the changes started. "Mom, you shouldn't be driving at night anymore," Rebecca said one evening after I'd mentioned going to book club. "It's dangerous for someone your age. Marcus thinks you might want to consider a smaller place." She said another time, "This house is too much for you to maintain." At first, I brushed it off. Rebecca was just worried about me, and Marcus was trying to be helpful. But then Jake stopped coming over for our weekly movie nights. "Grandma, Mom says you get confused sometimes and it's better if I don't bother you," he told me over the phone, his 16-year-old voice uncertain, confused. I'd been managing household finances, medical appointments, and social obligations without missing a beat. I'd raised Rebecca as a single mother for 5 years after her father left, worked as a bank manager for 30 years, and had been handling my own affairs just fine since Thomas died. But Marcus had Rebecca's ear, and apparently I was becoming a burden. It started small. Rebecca began showing up unannounced to check on me. She'd go through my mail, asking probing questions about my finances. She'd inspect my refrigerator and comment on expired items I'd already thrown away. "Mom, you left the stove on yesterday when I visited," she said one afternoon. I knew for certain I hadn't cooked anything that day. Then Marcus started accompanying her on these visits. He'd walk through my house with the confidence of someone taking inventory, making comments about necessary updates and safety concerns. "Susan, these stairs are a real hazard," he said, running his hand along the banister Thomas had installed himself 20 years ago. "Someone your age could have a serious fall. The electrical system is probably outdated too," he added, flipping light switches as if he were conducting an inspection. "Could be a fire risk." I noticed he never made these observations when Rebecca wasn't around. The final straw came on a Tuesday evening in October. I was making dinner when Rebecca and Marcus arrived unannounced again, but this time Marcus was carrying a suitcase. "Mom, we need to talk," Rebecca said, settling into my kitchen chair like she owned the place. "Marcus has been having some Financial difficulties since his divorce. His ex-wife is being unreasonable about the house settlement. Marcus nodded gravely. It's temporary, Susan, just until the lawyers sort everything out. I thought maybe he could stay in the guest room for a few weeks. Rebecca continued, you have all this space, and it would be good for you to have someone around. I looked between my daughter and this man I barely knew, Rebecca. I appreciate that Marcus is going through a difficult time, but I'm not comfortable with Mom, please. Rebecca's voice took on that tone I remembered from her teenage years. He's going to be part of our family. This is what families do for each other, part of our family. They'd been dating 6 months, but I agreed, against my better judgment. I agreed, because she was my daughter, and I wanted to support her happiness. That was my first mistake within a week. Marcus had made himself completely at home. He reorganized my kitchen for efficiency. He moved my favorite chair in the living room because it blocked the TV viewing angle. He used my car without asking because his was in the shop. The shop visit stretched from days to weeks. Susan, you don't mind if I use your computer, do you? He asked one morning. I need to check my email about the divorce proceedings. I minded, but I'd been raised to be polite, so I watched from the doorway as he logged into my personal computer, bookmarked several legal websites, and began what appeared to be very familiar navigation through my browser history. When I checked later, he'd been looking at real estate websites, specifically home values in my neighborhood. Rebecca, meanwhile, had become his devoted advocate when I mentioned feeling uncomfortable with Marcus going through my mail. She brushed it off. He's trying to help. Mom, you should be grateful someone cares about your well-being. When I complained about him using my car without permission, she sighed. His transportation situation is temporary. Can't you be a little more flexible? When I asked when exactly Marcus planned to move out, Rebecca's response chilled me to the bone. Mom, maybe it's time to accept that your living situation needs to change anyway. This house is too big for you. Marcus has experience with real estate from his divorce. He could help you find something more appropriate, like what, a studio apartment, a nursing home. That night, I lay in bed listening to Marcus and Rebecca talking in the guest room. Their voices were too quiet to make out words, but the tone was conspiratorial, planning. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being discussed like a problem to be solved. The next morning, I found Marcus in Thomas's study, going through the desk drawers, just looking for a pen, he said when I appeared in the doorway. But Thomas's favorite pen, a gold Parker that had been a retirement gift, was sitting in plain sight on the desk pad where I'd left it that afternoon. While Marcus was out job hunting, something he did daily but never seemed to find success with, I made a phone call that would change everything. Patricia Hoffman, Law Office. How may I help you? This is Susan Caldwell. I need to speak with Patricia about updating my estate planning documents. Patricia Hoffman had been Thomas's lawyer and had helped me navigate the probate process when he died. More importantly, she'd been my friend for 15 years and had watched Rebecca grow up. Susan, of course, is everything all right? I explained the situation carefully. Marcus's extended stay, Rebecca's increasingly concerning comments about my confusion and need for supervision. The way they both seemed very interested in my financial affairs and property value. I want to make sure my assets are protected, I told Patricia, and I want to understand my rights regarding my own home. Come in tomorrow morning, Patricia said immediately, and Susan, don't discuss this with anyone until we talk. The next day, I told Rebecca I was going to my doctor's appointment, which wasn't entirely untrue, since Patricia's office was in the same medical complex where my physician practiced. What I learned in Patricia's office made my blood run cold. Susan, based on what you're describing, this sounds like it could be elder abuse, Patricia said bluntly. Financial exploitation often starts exactly like this, isolating the victim, undermining their confidence, moving into their home, and gradually taking control. She pulled out a thick folder. Let's review your assets and make sure everything is properly protected. We spent 2 hours going through my finances. The house, paid off completely, was worth $450,000. Thomas's life insurance had left me with $200,000 in savings. His pension provided a monthly income of $3,200, plus my own smaller pension of $800 monthly. I was far from wealthy, but I was comfortable and secure. The most important thing, Patricia explained, is that your home is in your name only. Neither Rebecca nor anyone else has legal claim to it unless you choose to grant them that right. Then she asked the question that made everything clear. Susan, has anyone suggested you should add Rebecca's name to your house deed? Or sign any documents making her your power of attorney? My heart stopped. 2 weeks ago, Marcus had mentioned estate planning and suggested I might want to simplify things by adding Rebecca to the house deed, just in case something happens to you. He'd said it would make things easier for her. I told him I'd think about it. Now I understood what I was really thinking about. That evening, I watched Marcus and Rebecca with new eyes, the way he steered conversations toward my limitations. How she nodded along when he suggested I was struggling more than I wanted to admit. The careful way they both probed about my financial arrangements. I started paying attention to their private conversations, the ones they thought I couldn't hear from the kitchen while they sat in the living room. She's definitely showing signs, I heard Marcus say one evening. Yesterday she asked me twice if I'd seen her reading glasses. They were on her head both times. I touched my temple. I'd been looking for my glasses earlier, but I'd found them immediately on the side table where I'd left them. I never asked Marcus about them at all, and this morning she put salt in her coffee instead of sugar. Rebecca's voice replied, I'd done no such thing. My coffee had been perfect, same as always. They were creating incidents, building a narrative. The next few days, I began documenting everything, times, dates, conversations. I kept a small notebook hidden in my bedroom and wrote down every suspicious interaction. Marcus asked to borrow $200 for legal expenses. When I hesitated, Rebecca chimed in that I should want to help someone who was doing so much for me. Rebecca mentioned that Jake wouldn't be visiting anymore because she was concerned about my mental state around children. Marcus suggested I might want to consider giving Rebecca power of attorney just in case of emergency. Each suggestion was presented as being for my own good, my own safety, my own benefit. The trap they were setting became crystal clear when I overheard Marcus on the phone in the guest room. No, she hasn't signed anything yet, but Rebecca's working on it. Yes, the house is worth about $450. Once we get her to sign over power of attorney, we can start the process. She's old, confused. It'll be easy to prove she needs supervised care. My hands shook as I realized what they were planning. They intended to have me declared incompetent, move me into some facility, and sell my house. The house Thomas and I had bought as newlyweds, the house where I'd raised Rebecca. The house where every room held 40 years of memories. They were going to steal my life. The final insult came on a Sunday night. I'd made pot roast Thomas's favorite recipe and invited Rebecca and Jake for dinner. But when Rebecca arrived, Jake wasn't with her. He's at a friend's house, she said dismissively. Besides, I'm not sure family dinners are a good idea anymore. Mom, you seem stressed lately. Marcus appeared from the guest room, stretching theatrically. My back is killing me, he announced. That guest bed is way too soft. I think I need a firmer mattress for a few nights. Rebecca nodded sympathetically. Mom, would you mind if Marcus used your bedroom tonight? Just until we can get him a better mattress for the guest room. I stared at them, my bedroom, the room I'd shared with Thomas for 38 years, the room where he'd taken his last breath. Holding my hand, I'm not comfortable with that. I said quietly. Marcus's expression hardened. Susan, I'm in real pain here. I've been nothing but helpful around this house. And I'm asking for one small favor. The guest room bed is perfectly fine, I replied. I bought it new just 3 years ago. Rebecca's voice took on that sharp edge I'd been hearing more and more lately. Mom, you're being unreasonable. Marcus has been incredibly patient with your situation, my situation, your confusion, your mood swings, your suspicious behavior, she said, as if reciting a prepared list. We're trying to help you, but you're making it very difficult. That's when Marcus delivered the line that changed everything. Susan, I think it would be best if you slept on the couch tonight. I need the proper rest to function tomorrow. And frankly, you don't seem to appreciate the efforts we're making to take care of you. Sleep on the couch, in my own house. Rebecca nodded in agreement. It's just for one night. Mom, don't make this harder than it needs to be. I looked at my daughter, the little girl I'd sacrificed everything for. Worked double shifts to support, helped through college and divorce and single motherhood, and realized she was a stranger. Fine, I said quietly. I'll sleep on the couch. But as I gathered my pillows and blanket, my mind was already 3 steps ahead. The next morning, while Marcus was in my bedroom and Rebecca had gone to work, I made several phone calls. First, to Patricia Hoffman. I need that emergency protection order we discussed, and I want to formalize the estate planning changes immediately. Second, to Charlotte's best locksmith. I need every lock in my house changed today. This is an emergency situation. Third, to my bank. I need to add additional security to all my accounts and change my access codes. Fourth, to Rebecca's workplace. This is Susan Caldwell, Rebecca Chen's mother. Could you please have her call me immediately? It's a family emergency. By noon, every lock on my house had been changed. By 2 p.m. I'd signed new estate planning documents that explicitly prevented anyone from claiming I was incompetent without a C. At hearing and multiple medical evaluations. By 3 p.m., my bank accounts had new passwords and required in-person identification for any major transactions. When Rebecca arrived at 4 p.m., frantic from my emergency call, she found me sitting calmly in my living room. Mom, what's the emergency? You scared me to death. The emergency, I said, is that I found out what you and Marcus are planning. Her face went pale. What are you talking about? I know about the power of attorney scheme. I know about the plans to have me declared incompetent. I know about selling my house and putting me in a facility. Marcus appeared from the hallway, looking confused. Susan, what's going on? What's going on, I said, standing up with more strength than I'd felt in months, is that both of you are leaving my house. Right now. Rebecca's mouth fell open. Mom, you're having another episode. You're confused. I'm not confused. Rebecca, I'm angry. There's a difference. I walked to the front door and opened it. Your belongings are packed and on the front porch. Both of you need to leave immediately. Marcus stepped forward aggressively. Susan, you can't just kick me out. I have legal rights as a tenant. Actually, you don't. I pulled out my phone and showed him a text message I checked with my lawyer. You never signed a lease, never paid rent, and never had a formal agreement to live here. You're a guest who has overstayed their welcome. Mom, please, Rebecca said, her voice breaking. Let's talk about this reasonably. You're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. I looked directly at my daughter. Did you really think I was stupid enough not to notice what you were doing? That evening, after Marcus had sullenly collected his belongings and Rebecca had left in tears, I sat in my living room and called Jake, Grandma. Mom said I shouldn't call you because you're sick. I'm not sick, sweetheart. I'm perfectly fine. Would you like to come over for movie night this Friday? Really? Mom said you were too confused to have visitors. Your mom was mistaken about a lot of things. But she and I are going to work that out. 3 days later, Rebecca appeared at my door. She looked terrible, tired, stressed, and genuinely shaken. Mom, can we talk? I invited her in, but I didn't make it easy. Mark has left town, she said quietly. Apparently, his divorce was finalized months ago. He already had money from selling his house. He was just using us. I waited. I found out he's done this before, targeted older women, convinced their families they needed help, then manipulated the situation to get access to money and property. And you believed everything he told you about me. I said. Rebecca started crying. I thought I was protecting you. He was so convincing about the signs of dementia, and I was scared of losing you the way we lost Dad. I thought if I could just manage things, keep you safe, by stealing my independence, by planning to put me in a nursing home. I never wanted that, she said through her tears. I swear, Mom, I thought we were helping. Marcus said it would just be temporary. Just until we could find you a nice assisted living place where you'd be happier. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her, and saw someone who'd been manipulated just as much as I had, differently, but just as effectively. Rebecca, I said finally. I'm 75 years old, not dead. I'm capable of making my own decisions about my life, my home, and my care. If the day comes when I truly can't manage on my own, I'll ask for help. But that day isn't today, she nodded, wiping her eyes. And if you ever try to go behind my back or make decisions about my life without including me again, you'll find yourself locked out permanently. Do you understand? Yes, Mom. Good. Now, would you like to help me make dinner? Jake's coming over tonight, and I promised him his favorite, as we cook together, really together. Not with Rebecca monitoring my every move for signs of confusion. I realized something important. I'd spent months feeling like a victim, allowing myself to be diminished and undermined, but I wasn't a victim. I was a 75-year-old woman with a sharp mind, financial resources, and the legal right to live my life on my own terms. Marcus had underestimated me, and honestly, so had Rebecca. But they'd both learned an important lesson about what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness and age for vulnerability. I changed the locks on my house, but more importantly, I changed the locks on my life. And anyone who wants access will have to earn it with respect, honesty, and genuine care, not manipulation. Not lies, not schemes, just love, the real kind. 3 months later, Rebecca and I have rebuilt our relationship on much better terms. She comes for dinner once a week, but she asks first. Jake has resumed his movie nights and brings his friends sometimes. Apparently, I make the best popcorn in Charlotte. I've started dating again, something that horrifies Rebecca but makes me feel alive. And I've become an advocate for other older adults who might be facing similar manipulation from family members or romantic partners, because here's what I learned. Growing older doesn't mean giving up control of your life. It doesn't mean accepting disrespect or surrendering your independence. And it certainly doesn't mean allowing anyone, family included, to make decisions about your future without your input. Sometimes the best thing you can do for people who underestimate you is prove them wrong. And sometimes changing the locks isn't just about keeping people out, it's about keeping yourself strong. Have you ever faced this kind of betrayal? Share your story in the comments. We'll feature it in a future video.